The ship of Commander Zixtal moved slowly toward the blue planet. Earth looked beautiful from space, but Zixtal knew better. This was a Class 12 Deathworld, one of the most dangerous planets ever found. "Final approach to Earth orbit," said Navigator Vreen. Her 6 fingers tapped on the control panel. "The humans have given us landing coordinates." Zixtal nodded, his scaled skin reflecting the lights of the bridge. "Prepare the diplomatic team. Remember all safety protocols." For years, the Galactic Alliance had watched Earth from afar. Humans were strange creatures who survived on a planet that should have killed them. Now, after careful preparation, first contact was happening. "Sir, the humans are sending a welcome message," said Communications Officer Pell. "Display it," ordered Zixtal. A human face appeared on screen. A male with pale skin and short brown hair smiled broadly. "Greetings, Commander Zixtal. I'm Alan Foster, Earth's Diplomatic Director. We're excited to welcome you to our world. We've prepared comfortable quarters with all the safety features your advance team requested." Zixtal clicked his mandibles in acknowledgement. "We appreciate your preparation. Director Foster, my team is ready to begin cultural exchange." The landing went smoothly. The human delegation met them at a special facility built for alien visitors. It had air filters, radiation screens, and chemical analyzers to protect the Alliance team from Earth's many dangers. After 3 days of formal meetings, Director Foster made an unexpected offer. "Commander, my family would be honored if you and your senior officers would join us tomorrow evening for a holiday gathering at my home. We're celebrating what we call Christmas." Zixtal's antenna twitched with surprise. Leave the safety of the diplomatic compound to enter a human dwelling. It seemed risky, but refusing might damage their new relationship. "We would be honored," Zixtal said while his second-in-command Loreen shot him a worried glance. The next evening, 5 Alliance officers wore their protective suits as they traveled to Foster's home. The neighborhood looked peaceful, with neat houses and white snow covering the ground. "Remember," said Zixtal to his team, "avoid eating or drinking anything not checked by our analyzers. The humans mean well, but their biochemistry is very different from ours." Foster welcomed them at his door. "Please come in. My wife Sue and our children are excited to meet you." The aliens entered cautiously. The home felt warm and smelled of strange spices. Then Zixtal froze in horror. In the corner of the main room stood a massive vegetation specimen, reaching nearly to the ceiling. It was covered in small lights and shiny objects. "What is D8?" gasped Loreen, pointing at the tree while backing away. Foster looked confused. "That's our Christmas tree. Is something wrong?" "You've brought a full-sized plant specimen inside your dwelling." Zixtal couldn't believe it. On most worlds, plants produce toxins, poisons, and dangerous spores. A human female joined them. "I'm Sue. Is everything okay?" "They seem upset about the tree," Alan explained. "Commander," Sue said gently, "it's just a pine tree. It's a tradition to bring one inside and decorate it during this holiday." Gary Wilson, the human cultural liaison assigned to the Alliance team, stepped forward. "I should have prepared you for this. Many Earth families keep plants inside their homes. This particular one is a temporary holiday tradition." "But the dangers?" Zixtal struggled to understand. "Earth plants produce oxygen we breathe," Gary explained. "Most are harmless to us. Some are even beneficial." The alien delegation huddled together, speaking quietly in their own language. Finally, Zixtal turned back to their hosts. "We apologize for our reaction. On our worlds, wild vegetation is extremely dangerous. The idea of keeping it in living spaces is shocking." Ellen nodded. "No apology needed. This is why cultural exchange is important." As the evening continued, the aliens cautiously examined the tree from a safe distance. Zixtal secretly took readings with his equipment and made notes for his report. "Humans keep Deathworld trees inside their homes," he wrote. perhaps the most surprising discovery yet about this remarkable species. News of the indoor tree incident spread quickly through the Galactic Alliance scientific community. Dr. Kvaran, the leading xenobotanist from the aquatic world of Neru, immediately requested permission to join the Earth mission. "You want to study these dangerous plants?" asked Director Jor during the video conference. "Are you certain?" "Absolutely," Kvaran replied, her gill flaps fluttering with excitement. "If humans can safely keep vegetation inside their dwellings, it changes everything we know about plant-animal relationships." 2 weeks later, Kvaran arrived on Earth. Commander Zixtal greeted her at the landing pad. "Welcome to the strangest planet you'll ever visit," he said, helping her adjust her moisture suit. "I've arranged for you to work with a human plant expert." Dr. Lisa Murphy was waiting for them in the research center. She was a tall woman with curly red hair and a friendly smile. "It's wonderful to meet you, Dr. Kvaran. I've prepared a tour of various indoor plant environments." Kvaran's large eyes blinked rapidly. "You have different categories of indoor plants." Lisa laughed. "Oh yes, many. From tiny succulents to large tropical trees. Some humans have dozens of plants in their homes." Their first stop was Lisa's own apartment. Kvaran stopped at the doorway, stunned by what she saw. Plants covered every surface, hanging from the ceiling, sitting on tables, growing on shelves. Some had huge leaves, others were small with spiny surfaces. "This is normal?" Kvaran asked, her voice trembling slightly. "Well, I'm a bit plant crazy compared to most people," Lisa admitted, "but having a few houseplants is very common." Kvaran carefully approached a large plant with broad green leaves. Her scanner hummed as she analyzed it. "This species produces oxygen and filters airborne toxins," she noted with surprise. "It's not releasing harmful compounds. That's a peace lily," Lisa explained. "Many of our houseplants improve air quality. That's one reason we keep them inside." For the next several days, Kvaran visited human homes, each with different plant collections. She met Jeff Riley, who grew tiny trees called bonsai in special pots. She visited Susan Adams, an elderly woman with a victory garden of vegetables growing in her sunroom. Most shocking was the visit to Ben Coleman's apartment, where he maintained sealed glass containers called terrariums, with entire miniature ecosystems inside. "You create tiny self-sustaining worlds for enjoyment?" Kvaran asked, fascinated by a moss-filled container. "Exactly," Ben said. "It's like having a piece of forest right on my coffee table." After 2 weeks of research, Kvaran called an urgent meeting with the Alliance science team. "I believe humans may be under the influence of these plants," she announced to the gathered scientists. "My tests show many indoor plants release compounds that affect brain chemistry." Zixtal looked alarmed. "Are you suggesting mind control?" "Possibly," Kvaran said. "These plants may have evolved to manipulate humans into bringing them indoors, caring for them, even talking to them." When Kvaran shared this theory with Lisa the next day, the human botanist burst out laughing. "I'm sorry," Lisa said, wiping her eyes. "But that's hilarious. We keep plants because they're beautiful and make us happy, not because they're controlling us." "But the chemical evidence," Kvaran began. "Shows a relationship, yes," Lisa agreed. "Plants do make us feel good. The scents, the oxygen, even caring for something living. All these things reduce our stress. It's a mutual benefit, not control." Kvaran's gill flaps pulsed thoughtfully. "A symbiotic relationship rather than parasitic." "Exactly," Lisa said. "Would you like to run some tests to prove it?" Kvaran agreed enthusiastically. As they set up the experiments, she carefully touched a small plant with her webbed fingers. "On my world, plants are always dangerous predators," she said quietly. "The idea that they could be friends is revolutionary." The Alliance ship arrived with a special passenger. Trelmore, the best anthropologist in the galaxy, stepped onto Earth soil with 4 of his 6 legs trembling slightly. His large eyes blinked rapidly as they adjusted to Earth's bright sunlight. "The gravity feels stronger than I expected," he said to Commander Zixtol, who greeted him at the landing pad. "You'll get used to it," Zixtol replied. "Dr. Kvaran has been studying the plants, but we need your expertise to understand why humans bring these organisms into their living spaces." Trellmore nodded. "Plant behavior is only half the question. We need to understand human behavior too." The Alliance had assigned human sociologist Kevin Barnes to work with Trellmore. Kevin was a friendly man with a short beard and glasses. He had arranged interviews with 20 different families who kept plants in their homes. "I thought we should start with different types of households," Kevin explained as they drove to their first appointment. Young people, older couples, families with children. Their first visit was to the Johnson family. Eric and Amy Johnson lived in a small house with their 2 children, Lily and Sam. As soon as they entered, Trellmore noticed at least 15 plants of various sizes throughout the living room. "How long have you kept plants inside your home?" Trellmore asked, recording the conversation. "All my life," Amy answered. "My grandmother taught me how to care for houseplants when I was about Lily's age." She pointed to her daughter, who looked about 8 years old. "And why do you continue this practice?" Trellmore asked. Eric Johnson thought for a moment. "They make the house feel alive. After working in an office all day, I like coming home to something green and growing." The next house belonged to an elderly woman named Dorothy Miller. Her windows were filled with flowering plants that cast colorful shadows across her furniture. "These plants were my husband's," she explained, gently touching a leaf. "He passed away 5 years ago, but his plants are still with me. Caring for them makes me feel like he's still here somehow." Trellmore's recording device captured the slight quiver in her voice. This emotional connection was unexpected. At the apartment of Frank and Greg Patel Williams, they discovered plants from many different countries. "This one came from Greg's grandmother in India," Frank explained, showing them a large, bushy plant. "And this one is from my family's farm in Kentucky. When we moved in together, our plants moved in too." "The plants represent your family connections?" Trellmore asked. "Exactly," Greg nodded. "They're living memories." By the end of the week, Trellmore had interviewed all 20 households. He sat in the research center with Kevin and Dr. Kvaran, reviewing their findings. "It's fascinating," Trellmore said. "These plants serve many purposes beyond air purification. They are symbols of heritage, objects of beauty, connections to lost loved ones." Kevin nodded. "Humans have always tried to bring nature into our living spaces. Even in ancient cave dwellings, archaeologists find evidence of plants being brought inside." "But Earth is dangerous," Zixtol said, joining their conversation. "Your planet has extreme weather, predators, diseases. Yet you don't see it as a death world." "It's our home," Kevin replied simply. "We evolved here, alongside the plants and animals. We learned which ones help us and which ones harm us." Dr. Kvaran's gill flaps pulsed thoughtfully. "Perhaps that's why you bring plants inside. You're not trying to conquer nature. You're acknowledging you're part of it." Trellmore spent that evening writing his report. He described how the human child Lily Johnson talked to her small cactus each morning, how Dorothy Miller named each of her plants after favorite characters in books, how 7-year-old Connor Black had his own tiny garden on the apartment windowsill. "The humans of Earth," he wrote, "do not see themselves as separate from their planet's ecosystem. By bringing plants into their homes, they remind themselves of this connection." This practice reflects not primitive thinking, but a deep understanding of their place in their world. The Great Council Chamber of the Galactic Alliance buzzed with nervous energy. Representatives from 200 species sat in tiered seats facing the central platform. Today's emergency session had only one topic: Earth and its plants. High Counselor Vex stood at the podium, his crystalline body gleaming under the chamber lights. "The reports from our Earth mission have raised serious concerns," he began. "Humans not only survive on a Class 12 death world, but bring its dangerous flora into their homes." Images appeared on the massive screen behind him. Human dwellings filled with plants of all sizes. The audience murmured anxiously. Our scientists report that humans form emotional attachments to these organisms. Vex continued. They speak to them, nurture them, even name them. We must consider the possibility that Earth vegetation has evolved to control human behavior. Ambassador Flora of the Chlorian system rose from her seat. Her leaf-like skin rustled as she spoke. As a photosynthetic species, I find this deeply troubling. Earth plants may pose a galaxy-wide threat if humans spread them to other worlds. More representatives stood to voice concerns. The Mavari delegate suggested immediate quarantine of all Earth vessels. The Zorn representative proposed banning all plant material from human ships. The chamber grew louder with each frightening suggestion. Finally, Ambassador Nicole Phillips of Earth was invited to speak. She walked calmly to the podium, a slim woman with dark brown skin and short black hair streaked with gray. Respected counselors, she began, I understand your fears. But there's something important you're missing. She tapped a control panel, and new images appeared on the screen. Ancient cave paintings showing humans gathering plants, Egyptian hieroglyphs depicting sacred trees, historical photos of gardens and parks. Humans have lived alongside plants for our entire existence, Nicole explained. We evolved together. The plants in our homes aren't controlling us. We selected them over thousands of years, choosing species that benefit our health and well-being. She displayed charts from Dr. Kavarin's research showing how houseplants improved air quality and reduced stress hormones in humans. These plants aren't dangerous invaders in our homes, Nicole continued. They're partners. Some provide food. Others clean our air. Many simply bring beauty and calm to our living spaces. Ambassador Greel of the Tekken Consortium huffed skeptically. If these relationships are so beneficial, why hasn't this practice evolved on other worlds? An excellent question, Nicole replied. Perhaps because Earth's conditions are unique. Our planet forced humans and plants to adapt to each other in ways that didn't happen elsewhere. She showed a final image, a child helping an elderly woman water a flowering plant. This plant belongs to 5 generations of my family, Nicole said quietly. My great-grandmother carried a cutting when she immigrated to a new country. It has witnessed births, deaths, celebrations, and sorrows. It's not controlling us. It's part of us. The chamber fell silent. Even the most suspicious representatives seemed thoughtful. High Counselor Vex spoke again. Your perspective is noted, Ambassador Phillips. However, the potential risk remains. We propose trade restrictions on all Earth vegetation until further studies are completed. Nicole frowned. Such restrictions would damage our new relationship with the Alliance. Safety must come first, Vex insisted. Dr. Kavarin, who had been sitting quietly in the observer section, suddenly stood. If I may, counselors, my research suggests Earth plants pose minimal risk when properly studied. Instead of restrictions, I propose continued research under controlled conditions. After hours of debate, the Council reached a compromise. Earth plants would not be banned, but would require certification before transport to other worlds. A joint research program would be established to study the human-plant relationship more deeply. As the session ended, Nicole approached Dr. Kavarin. Thank you for speaking up. Kavarin's gill flaps fluttered. I've learned not to judge other worlds by my own standards. Your plants fascinate me. Nicole smiled. Perhaps you'd like a small one for your quarters. Kavarin hesitated only briefly before answering. I would like that very much. The white research dome stood out against the red landscape of Proxima Station, the Alliance's newest scientific outpost. Inside, Dr. Kavarin moved between rows of Earth plants, checking readings on her tablet. This experimental colony was one of 12 established throughout the galaxy, each testing how different species might adapt to living with plants from Earth. How are our volunteers doing today? Asked Paul Rodriguez, the human botanist who had arrived last month to oversee the project. The Mariani participants seem most comfortable with the plants, Kavarin replied. The Vox are still. cautious. Paul smiled. That's a polite way of saying they refused to enter the same room as the ficus tree. The experiment had begun 3 months ago, with 60 volunteers from 10 different alliance species. Each participant lived in quarters containing earth plants, from small succulents to medium-sized ferns. Their physical and psychological responses were carefully monitored. "We have a progress meeting in 10 minutes, Kvaran reminded Paul. "The Oversight Committee wants our initial findings." In the meeting room, representatives from each species waited. Some sat comfortably, while others positioned themselves near the exit doors. "Thank you all for coming," Paul began. "We've reached the halfway point in our study, and we'd like to hear about your experiences." Zunra, a tall blue-skinned Miriani, spoke first. "The plant in my sleeping chamber has become important to me. I notice its new leaf growth each morning. Yesterday I found myself telling it about my day." She looked embarrassed. "Is this normal?" Paul nodded. "Many humans talk to their plants. Some research suggests plants respond to voices, though not in ways we fully understand." Dex, a furry vox with large eyes, twitched nervously. "My ancestors evolved hiding from carnivorous plants. Having them in my living space triggers instinctual fear." "That's perfectly understandable," Kvaran said. "Different evolutionary histories create different responses." "Yet I find the small round cactus acceptable," Dex continued. "It stays in its pot and makes no threatening movements. I have named it Pak." Paul and Kvaran exchanged surprised glances. Even the most reluctant participants were forming connections with their plants. After the meeting, they reviewed the data in their office. "Air quality has improved in all living quarters," Paul noted, "and stress hormones have decreased in 7 of the 10 species. The psychological benefits are most interesting," Kvaran added. "Participants report feeling less alone and having something to care for." The study continued for another 3 months. Some participants requested additional plants. Others learned to propagate new plants from cuttings. The Threx participants, whose home world was mostly desert, became especially attached to water-loving species like peace lilies. Not everything went smoothly. A Ganthy volunteer developed an allergic reaction to fern spores. 2 Vox participants still refused to sleep in rooms containing plants taller than themselves. The Zintaki volunteers kept eating their plants despite repeated instructions not to. On the final day of the experiment, Paul and Kvaran held a closing ceremony. Each participant shared their experience. "I was skeptical," said Elra, an elderly Threx. "Plants on my world are tough, thorny things that survive with little water. These soft, green earth plants seemed weak. But watching my peace lily unfurl new leaves taught me about finding beauty in gentleness." Mip, a small Zintaki, held up a thriving spider plant. "I have 7 babies growing from this mother plant. They remind me of my own children, spreading out but still connected." The most surprising testimony came from Dex, the frightened Vox. He carefully carried his cactus to the front of the room. "Hawk has 3 new spines," he announced proudly. "I will take him home when we leave tomorrow." Later, as they packed up their equipment, Paul asked Kvaran, "Do you think the experiment was successful?" Kvaran looked around at the dome, now nearly empty as participants had taken their plants to their quarters. "When we began, everyone called these earth plants, or specimens," she said. "Now they have names. Pak, Little Green, Sunshine. They've become individuals, not just representatives of a feared world." She touched a leaf on her own small plant, a gift from Nicole Phillips. "I believe that's more successful than we could have hoped." Dr. Kvaran worked late into the night. The laboratory lights cast a soft blue glow over her workstation as she compared data from different plant samples. For months, she had studied earth plants alongside examples from 50 other worlds. Tonight, something in the results caught her attention. "Computer, run comparison analysis again," she said, her gill flaps pulsing with excitement. The screen displayed new charts and graphs. Kvaran studied them carefully. then sent an urgent message to Paul Rodriguez. When Paul arrived an hour later, he found Kvaran surrounded by sample tubes and digital displays. "What's so important it couldn't wait until morning?" he asked, rubbing sleep from his eyes. "Look at these cellular structures," Kvaran said, pointing to microscope images. "Earth plants have unique adaptations not seen anywhere else in the galaxy." Paul leaned closer. "What kind of adaptations?" "Reduced toxin production, modified defense mechanisms, enhanced oxygen output," Kvaran explained. "Even the most dangerous plants from Earth produce fewer harmful compounds than equivalent species from other worlds." She pulled up more images. "And look at these specimens from human homes. The cellular changes are even more pronounced. They've evolved specifically to be safe around humans." Paul frowned. "That doesn't make evolutionary sense. Plants develop defenses against threats, not accommodations for other species." "Exactly." Kvaran's voice rose with excitement. "Unless there's been co-evolution, Earth plants and humans have been influencing each other's development for millions of years." She displayed a timeline on the main screen. "When humans began bringing plants indoors thousands of years ago, they unknowingly started a selection process. They kept plants that didn't make them sick, that produced pleasant scents, that improved their environment. Natural selection directed by human preference," Paul said slowly, understanding dawning on his face. "More than that," Kvaran continued. "The plants adapted to benefit from human care. They developed traits that appealed to humans. Colorful flowers, pleasant fragrances, air-purifying abilities. A mutual benefit relationship," Paul nodded. "The most extensive plant-animal symbiosis we've ever documented," Kvaran corrected. "On most worlds, plants and animals exist in predator-prey relationships or simple ecological balances. But Earth's unique conditions created something different." She displayed samples from the experiment's plant nursery. "Even the descendants of Earth plants grown in our controlled environments show these adaptations. It's encoded in their DNA now." Paul sat down, processing the implications. "So when humans bring plants into their homes, they're not bringing in wild, dangerous organisms," Kvaran finished. "They're continuing a millions-year-old partnership. These plants have evolved specifically to live with humans, just as humans have evolved to live with them." The next morning, they presented their findings to Commander Zixtal and the Alliance science team. The evidence was clear in the genetic analyses, cellular structures, and biochemical pathways. "This changes our understanding of Earth's classification," Zixtal said after reviewing the data. "No other Deathworld has shown this kind of symbiotic relationship between dominant species and flora." Dr. Trelmore, who had joined by video link, added his perspective. "This explains the emotional connections humans form with their plants. It's not just cultural, it's biological. Their bodies recognize these plants as partners, not threats." "The implications go beyond science," Kvaran said. "This discovery affects Alliance policy on Earth plants. They aren't invasive dangers to be feared, but specialized organisms adapted for coexistence." Paul looked thoughtfully at a small potted plant on the conference table. "For us, it's just normal to have plants around. We never realized how special this relationship is." "That's often true of the most profound adaptations," Kvaran replied. "They become so integrated into life that they seem unremarkable." Commander Zixtal stood up. "Dr. Kvaran, prepare a comprehensive report for Alliance headquarters. This discovery warrants a review of Earth's classification and our approach to human-plant relationships." As the meeting ended, Kvaran gently touched the leaves of the small plant. What once seemed terrifying now represented one of the galaxy's most remarkable evolutionary stories, how a Deathworld's plants had become safe enough to bring home. The Great Hall of the Galactic Alliance headquarters shimmered with decorative lights. Representatives from hundreds of worlds gathered for a historic announcement. On the central platform, High Counselor Vex stood beside Ambassador Nicole Phillips and Dr. Kvaran. "Today marks a new understanding between worlds," Vex announced, his crystalline form reflecting rainbow patterns across the hall. Based on extensive research, the Alliance officially reclassifies Earth as a symbiotic deathworld, the first such designation in our records. Screens around the hall displayed images of Earth's diverse ecosystems alongside human cities and homes. Earth remains objectively dangerous by Alliance standards, Vex continued. But the unique relationship between humans and their planet's flora represents an evolutionary path we haven't seen elsewhere. This partnership deserves recognition and study. Ambassador Phillips stepped forward. On behalf of Earth, we welcome this new classification. We've always known our world was special. Now we better understand why. In the months that followed, carefully controlled botanical exchange programs began. The first public garden of Earth plants opened on Maria, where the blue-skinned inhabitants had shown the greatest compatibility with Earth flora. Small groups of certified plant ambassadors from Earth traveled to various worlds, teaching alien species how to care for their new green companions. Amber Scott was one such ambassador. A botanist from a small town in Oregon, she now found herself on the desert world of Threx, helping local scientists establish Earth plant colonies in their biodomes. These need water every 3 days, she explained to a group of Threx students, holding up a small fern. Not too much, just enough to keep the soil damp. The Threx, with their tough, sandy skin, found Earth's water-loving plants fascinating. Their own world had little surface water, and their native plants stored moisture for years. "It seems so fragile," said one student, carefully touching the fern's delicate fronds. "That's what makes it beautiful," Amber replied. "Its softness is its strength." On the Alliance's central station, preparations for the first annual Galactic Plant Festival were underway. Dr. Kavarin served as head coordinator, bringing together botanical specimens from 50 worlds. Earth plants received a special exhibition hall where visitors could learn about their history with humans. Paul Rodriguez supervised the Earth exhibition, explaining to curious aliens how different plants had entered human homes over centuries. Some visitors remained nervous, staying far from the larger specimens. Others, especially those who had participated in the experimental colonies, came with questions about specific plants they now kept in their quarters. "My piece Lily developed brown spots," explained a concerned Marianian diplomat. "Have I done something wrong?" As the festival opened to the public, even Kavarin was surprised by the turnout. Thousands of beings from across the galaxy came to learn about plants that had once been considered too dangerous to approach. Meanwhile, on his homeworld, Commander Zixtal finished his day's work and returned to his private quarters. The room looked different than it had a year ago. Small green plants now occupied several shelves and tables. A vine crept along one wall, its leaves catching the evening light. Zixtal walked to a particular plant on his desk, a small specimen with rounded leaves the humans called a Chinese money plant. It had been a gift from Nicole Phillips when he completed his Earth mission. "You grew another leaf today," he said quietly to the plant as he carefully measured water into its pot. "That's good progress." He still remembered his horror at seeing the Christmas tree in Alan Foster's home. How dangerous it had seemed. How unnatural. Now he understood it was part of a relationship far older and deeper than he had imagined. Zixtal settled into his chair and activated his personal log. "It's been 1 year since first contact with Earth," he recorded. "The humans continue to surprise us. Their relationship with their world's flora has changed how we understand evolution and adaptation." And he glanced at his small plant collection. "It has changed many of us personally as well." He reached out and gently touched a leaf of his plant. Perhaps the greatest lesson from Earth is that even on the most dangerous worlds, life finds ways not just to survive, but to connect. Sometimes the most meaningful relationships emerge from the harshest beginnings.